KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're
the Real Estate Rat Pack.
Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now, 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack.
I always warn everyone.
Good morning,
Never know what to expect on this.
We have a great show going on today.
You know, Christi Borden, who is with Gary Green, Better Homes and Gardens.
Yes.
Or actually, it's Better Homes and Gardens, Gary Green. I was from the 70s, and so I remember all that when it was reversed of that. Anyway, and she's now officially a two-timer. Christi Borden, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm welcome, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah,
Well, we're glad having you here.
That's not what she said when I called her to come on. She goes,
It's
"I
very
have to get up early?"
I work all the time.
Yeah, I know you do.
Saturday sleep is precious.
Well, yeah, not only is Christi a top producer for Gary Green, she is also an unbelievable volunteer.
Yes.
And she serves on our board of directors. She has served as TreePack chairperson. And we're going to talk about TreePack, which is Texas Real Estate
Political Action Committee.
Political Action Committee, which is our political arm of our association, which has become, we are the biggest PAC in the state. And actually, at national level, we're the biggest PAC. And one of the things I always talk about PACs, I used to be anti-PAC. It's, oh, you're buying influence. No, what you are is you're getting the ability to educate legislators on what the issues are. And the nice thing about what we do, it's always for property rights.
Yes.
And so, Christian, let's talk about what we're facing in the legislature right now. And, of course, I always appreciate the fact we have a part-time legislature. They can only mess us up every 2 years.
They can only do harm every other year.
So we do our best to keep them from harming us again. It's just like in the Hippocratic Oath, is first of all, do no harm, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about what kind of issues we see on the table.
Well, certainly. And realize, of course, that our PAC actually is not just Texas. We have a national arm of our PAC. And we hit local issues as well, from city council all the way up to what they're doing in D.C. On the local side, on the city council side, of course, we're always looking at historic property preservation rights and how that impacts home ownership. Moving to the state, we've got taxation issues, transfer tax, protecting homeowners against unnecessary financial burdens. And unfortunately, our legislators, they always look to real estate as a pool of money to access, because when the economy's good, the real estate market is good, and they feel that it's a good target. The problem is that all of those costs will go to the consumer, therefore rising the cost of home ownership in the state of Texas. So we're just here to protect private property rights for landowners, investors, homeowners, and the renters are protected too, because whatever impacts their landlord impacts the renter.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't
And raise
see
fee.
what the problem with the taxation is. This works so well out in California.
Yeah. Along with Proposition 13 out there.
And you know, some of the states, our PAC, we're very effective here in Texas. We've done such a great job of protecting Texas homeowners in the past, and some of it is on the lending side,
Right.
having to do with home equity preservation, because
Absolutely.
in Texas, we've always kept the equity to 80% to get a home equity loan, only to 80% of value. What that did was, in California, they didn't have such a legislation. And so a homeowner could borrow against their own home and only up to 80% here in Texas, therefore protecting equity. In California, there was no such restriction.
You can actually go above it. Actually,
Yeah.
Did
in California.
110%. So the thing is, people were using their homes as credit cards.
Right.
It's a CD, not an ATM.
Right.
And so they borrowed against themselves and actually kicked themselves out of their own homes because they had access to that equity. And we just want to be a little smarter here.
Well, and as you're talking about, one of the things we've always said is real estate is really a driving factor. Whether you own real estate right now or you're going to own real estate in the future, you're renting right now, whatever that process is, if you take out your personal ownership of anything, real estate is a major driver in the U.S. economy, period. Bar none. I mean, whether it be
Nothing
commercial real
comes
estate,
close.
residential real estate, or anything in between right there. And people don't realize this PAC is extremely important to protect one of the driving economic forces that exist in our economy. Because without the small entrepreneur, without the business person who works out of their home, without home ownership or corporate America buys real estate, we wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't be that number one still economic engine in the world.
And I still think part of the American dream is home ownership.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, we do what we can, and we recognize when there's an impediment to that possibility of someone owning a home. And we spend a lot of time talking about that specifically. And, of course, always in Congress at a national level, they're always talking about taking away the mortgage interest deduction.
Right.
And they've been talking about that for about 4 or 5 years, and we've fought it, and so far nothing's happened.
One of the things to think about that is that we want to always keep the markets open for the first-time home buyer. The first-time home buyer has been a traditional renter. They perceive risk in purchasing, and there is risk in any investment. You defray that risk by allowing them these deductions off of the interest that they're paying.
Right.
And so when you take that away, you have removed an incentive for that renter to become a buyer. When you remove that buyer from the market, you have no one moving into that first level of entry home. So if you currently own a first level entry home, you have no buyer pool. You have effectively stopped the market. Then what you've done is you've prevented this buyer to be a move-up buyer.
Right.
So that second tier level of home has no buyer pool. So when you take away that mortgage at the base, you actually stall the housing market by taking away the incentive that is a fabulous incentive for traditional renters.
Well, and we see it all the time. I mean, a lot of times individuals come in from a lending perspective, and their purchase a lot of time is done based upon where they stand earnings-wise, what they're looking at doing tax deduction-wise. It's also a tax vehicle for them many times, especially as you move up. Not only your first-time home buyers you mentioned, but also your second, third, fourth home buyer that are moving up, that their earnings have moved to a certain level. I mean, one of the things that happened, I'll never forget this happened probably about 4 or 5 years ago, an individual really struck gold black gold in the ground. You know, really stuck
Texas tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Jim.
And he walked up to me and he said, I invested in a couple of wells, and I need to start offsetting certain costs because otherwise I'm just paying a lot out and not really investing my money. What was the first thing he looked to? Real estate. What was his investment vehicle? Residential real estate. And why was he doing it? Because he wanted to get the tax and benefits associated with home ownership through deductions. If that goes away, that takes away that individual from the market.
And another tax that's very important to realize at the national level, they've been looking at trying to take away being able to write off your property taxes off of your federal income tax.
Yes.
Now think about how that affects Texans. California has a state income tax, so their property taxes are actually very low. So the impact for them would be very minimal because they can write their state income taxes off of their federal income taxes. Texas has no state income tax. So it would be incredibly onerous that our huge tax burden, which is our property tax, which funds our infrastructure in our schools, much as the state income tax would, we would no longer be able to claim that deduction. Can you imagine how unfair it would be to Texas? Very punitive. So we are watching.
I'm not sure the current administration really likes Texas that much.
Well, no, we're not going there. But what I wanted to say is that what people don't realize, the consumer, is that it's your Texas realtors who are Texas homeowners watching Texas issues. And we're also watching on the national side to make sure that we're protected. And I wanted to mention about our consumer PAC. May I?
Oh, absolutely,
okay.
absolutely.
That's against the rules.
Yeah. No, these issues are so important and so much beyond the realtors fighting for your rights that we wanted to be able to allow the consumer to be a part of it. So we created Voice for Texas, which is voicefortexas.com, spell FOR. And it is so important. Please go check out this site. This is a part of our PAC in that the consumer can be involved. They can learn more. They can actually post their issues. If you have an issue, like you're in Arlington, and you have an issue where the city council is passing an ordinance that is onerous, put it on there. We're going to investigate it. We're going to send that to our lobbyists. So that allows the Tree Pack voice to go for the consumer, and the consumer can also invest as well.
You know,
Voice for Texas, yeah.
Informed voters goes against everything in politics.
It really does.
We are trying to change that.
And that's exactly why the Voice for Texas was set up. It was to educate the consumer and get them politically involved as we are, so they can go talk to the legislator.
Well, because you mentioned a lot of times things happen at a micro level that you can't see. As a PAC, you can't see everything down to a micro level. And so the Voice for Texas gives individuals an opportunity to go out there and say, this is what's going on in my community.
Right.
You know, bring visibility to it.
And we have the visibility and we have the voice.
Right.
But there's only so many of us, 90,000 in this state.
Right.
So we need to be broader than that. So if they go to that site, we're going to fight for their issues. And it helps us understand what's going on. I can tell you that ground zero is Austin City Council. A lot of times things that start there end up spreading across the state. And I'll say rental registration being one. Rental registration, please look into it. It would be very harmful to real estate, and we've worked very hard to fight
Rental
that.
registration. So
Yeah.
describe that a little bit.
Well, let's just say in Austin, they would not allow you to rent your property without having okayed your property be
They
up
come
to
out and
code.
inspect it.
Oh,
Inspect it.
okay.
Think about it if you want to rent your home during South by
Right.
for a week to a friend. No, you can't unless you actually meet these guidelines. What it does is a way for them to come set code violations for you and fines. And all of these will add a burden and a cost. And it's your home. You should be able to do with your home what you wish, as long as
It's a
legal.
revenue stream, and there's been a lot of municipalities have adopted it where actually you do have to have it inspected, and they'll give you, you register your rental, and it's a very onerous deal. Now, we have a entity at TAR, Texas Association of Realtors, called Issues Mobilization, and we usually keep about $4 or $5 million in that to fight local issues just
Right.
like that.
Wow.
And so
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of entities that already have people in place to check for rental to make sure, that they're not renting some dangerous home that's going to cause the consumer harm.
Right.
So there's already people in place doing that. We don't need legislators to add another burden on top of it.
Chris,
Well,
we're coming up against the
time
break here.
Exactly. Time flies, especially in the subject matter we can speak about for hours and hours. We only
We're
have
bringing
1
her
hour in
back.
total.
We're bringing her back.
We have Christi Borden, we have Chuck Poteet, we have Tim O'Neill, we have a lot of good players, but we have to take a break right now and let our sponsors say hello. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I'm like an ocean wave that's bumped on the shore.